Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and it's Armageddon. The aliens have returned to menace us again. And at this point, you figure they got all of our Doctor Who stuff anyway, right? The aliens. Y'all got to stop, letting me be, the person that communicates to the aliens about what we keep and what we don't, apparently. I'm not very good at this. They have all of our stuff by now. But on this, it's Armageddon. Been a while since we did one of these. My question is, what if you could only save one season from each decade of Doctor Who? And in the case of the 90s, something from the 90s. Maybe a book, maybe a season of books. I don't know if the books really worked like that in the 90s, but maybe a book, the TV movie, Curse of Fatal Death, maybe a Big Finish story from the 90s. Maybe a series. I do believe some of Big Finish works in seasons or series, maybe a whole series if you want. Same thing with the 2000s. You don't necessarily have to pick the TV show. I mean, if there's a Big Finish story you would rather pick from the 2000s, the first half of the 2000s, this TV show wasn't back yet. So if you have something like the Paul McGann version of Shoutout. So if you would rather pick like a Big Finish season, hey, you do you. Anyway, I'm going to start with the 60s, and I would say season 2. Now, most of you know season 4 is actually my favorite 60s season. I love season 4, but with so many episodes missing, I can't justify picking season 4. And this stinks for me in a way because saving season 2, I won't have a Troughton season to save. We will lose all the Troughton seasons, and that breaks my heart because I love the Troughton era. But I can't justify picking season 2. I mean, I can't justify picking seasons 4, 5, and 6 over season 2. Season 2 is such a strong quality. I think season 4 has better writing. But with the missing episodes, with only 10 surviving episodes, even with the animations, I mean, 10 surviving original episodes, we have the animations, but they're not the same as having the original episodes. And with season 2 not only being such a good season, it is my second favorite season of the 60s. My favorite Hartnell season. Most of the episodes are intact, with only 2 episodes of The Crusade missing. I would pick season 2. Plus, I think we do need a record for the first Doctor, simply because it is the first Doctor. We need to keep a record of that. Moving into the 70s, this is the hardest one. Because if you can only keep one season from the 70s, you're going to lose John or Tom. You're going to lose John or Tom. That breaks my heart, because I love 70s Doctor Who. It's my favorite Doctor Who. Tom's my favorite Doctor. John is also one of my favorite Doctors. This one is really hard. I would probably say season 13. It's hard. 12 is in the runnings. It's 7 and 10 are also in the runnings. 10 partially because you at least have a Troughton story in the 3 Doctors, so you can get some Troughton in there. But I would probably do season 13. It's iconic. It's one of the greatest seasons of all time. It's one of my favorite seasons of all time. Sometimes I prefer 12, sometimes I prefer 13. With 13, I'm getting an extra story. So I would probably say 13, although it breaks my heart I wouldn't have some of the funner stories like Robot, or in the case of season 17, City of Death, and some of the more fun stories I like. But of all the ones, that would be the hardest to choose of the 70s. I would probably take season 13. The 80s gets a little tricky, because my first thought is season 20, if I can keep the 5 Doctors with it. I would beg the aliens. They would be like, is it part of season 20? And I'd show them the season 20 box set and go, yes, see, it's right here on season 20. And then the aliens would probably be like, why is he making such a big deal of this? Okay, it's part of season 20. You can keep it. And I'll be like, at least with season 20, not only am I getting good stories, I like season 20. It's my favorite Davison season. It doesn't necessarily hit the highs of some of his other seasons, like Caves of Androzani or something like Earthshock, but it doesn't hit the lows of the other seasons. Season 21, season 19 have some lows for me, especially like, don't get me wrong, I actually find Time Flight underrated, but something like Kenda, which just really isn't that good. And then season 21, you have something like Warriors of the Deep and Twin Dilemma, which are also not that good. Season 20 is very consistently good. I love Arc of Infinity, especially with the updated effects. I like Modern Undead. I like Snake Dance. Way better than Kenda. Terminus has grown on me. Terminus is a very forgettable story. With the updated effects help it, but it has grown on me. There's a good story in there. It's not executed the best, but there's a good story in there. Enlightenment, I really enjoy. I like King's Demons. I find King's Demons very underrated. My favorite Davison two-parter, easily. It's a lot of fun with some good performances. And I love the Five Doctors, and at least keeping the Five Doctors, you get little snippets of the others. You at least have Herndl as the first Doctor. You get Troughton in there. You get Pertwee in there. A little bit of Tom Baker from Shada in there. So you're actually getting at least a taste of these other Doctors. People will actually get a little bit of experience with 2 and 3, which is nice. Now, it's difficult because seasons 25 and 26 are also in the runnings, but seasons 25 and 26, as good as they are, and they're only 4 stories apiece, where this way with season 20, I'm getting 7 stories. And none of those 7 stories are just inherently bad, in my opinion. So I would probably say season 20. It is the best Davison season for me, even if it doesn't quite have something to the caliber of, say, The Visitation, arguably, or Earthshock, or Caves of Androzani. It doesn't have the lows either. The 90s, I'd just go with the TV movie. I have not experienced a lot of the 90s stuff that you guys have. I have some of it. I did recently read Face of the Enemy, which is a really fun story involving Unit and the Master. The Doctor's barely in it. I enjoyed that. And of course, Curse of Fatal Death is hilarious. And then some of the audios I've listened to, I'm sure from then I kind of get mixed up which audios came out when. But I've heard some of the early 8th Doctor audios and really like those. I'm not sure when Chimes of Midnight came out. I don't know if that's a 90s or a 2000s release. It's very good, though. But I would just say the TV movie. I like the TV movie. It has its flaws, but I enjoy it. I think McGann's putting in a good performance. I feel like Daphne's doing a good performance. And I feel like Eric Roberts is doing a very underrated performance, honestly. It's a good movie and an important piece of Doctor Who history. I would like to keep it. Moving into the 2000s, I probably would stick with the TV show. I know some people might go the audio range. Totally understand that. Some people, you'd rather have some Big Finish classic Doctor Who than you would modern Doctor Who. Totally fair. I would probably stick with the modern series and say Series 3. Most of you know Series 3 is my favorite of the modern series. Series 1 being a strong contender. But I like Series 3. I like Martha. Tennant is better in this one. 10 is better in this one. And it's got a lot of really good stories. I don't think Series 3 has really any bad stories. The series finale is a little underwhelming, but it's fine. And it does have a lot of strong, underrated ones I like. Like, I love Gridlock. I love Gridlock. Gridlock is arguably my favorite Modern Who story. It's definitely up there. I think when I ranked Modern Who stories, it ranked number 1. It's definitely up there. Very underrated. Shakespearean Code is very underrated. Blink, of course, is phenomenal. The Human Nature two-parter is very good. Utopia is fantastic. I love Derek Jacobi, however you're supposed to say it. He's great in that role, playing the dual roles, really, he's playing. And even 42, which is probably the weakest of the season, is watchable. It's fine for every now and then viewing. It doesn't really have any bad stories in it that season for me. Even the Dalek two-parter, I can find enjoyable every now and again. I don't quite like it as much as I used to, but it's good. It's way better than some of the other Dalek stories we've gotten, like The Chase. That's another story. Moving into the 2010s, this one gets a little trickier. I'm probably just going to go with my first impulse and say Series 5. I think Series 5 is probably the most consistently good season we got that decade. I'm trying to remember if Series 12 came out in 2019 or 2020. I don't remember if it was 2019 or 2020. I think it was 2020. So I definitely think Series 5, though. Series 5 is consistently good. I feel like Matt Smith is at his best as the Doctor here, the way he's balancing the comedic and the serious, the young man and the old man, or the old man and the young man's body. I feel like he has a really good balance here. He gets a little more caricaturish in Series 6 and Series 7A. I feel like he gets back on track in Series 7B and his final specials. And he's really good there. Plus, I love his purple outfit. Like, I would be tempted to say Series 7 if you could include Day of the Doctor and Night of the Doctor and Time of the Doctor in there. I'd be tempted to say that, but I really don't like Series 7A a lot. I like A Town Called Mercy, and I enjoy Asylum of the Daleks, which very flawed story. A lot of stuff doesn't make sense, but I have it's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. I do find it enjoyable. Whereas the other stories that season, the other three are just, for Series 7A, are just terrible in my opinion. Just terrible. I think they're bad. Series 7B is much better with only one or two stingers in it. The Rings of Akatan doesn't do much for me, and Journey to the Center of the TARDIS isn't that good. But the other stories I find really good. But Series 5 is just more consistently good, in my opinion. I don't really think it has a lot of bad stories. I'm not a big fan of Amy's Choice, and I don't like the Silurian two-parter. Those are pretty terrible, in my opinion. But other than that, I think it's pretty good. It's really hard to choose, but I think I'd go Series 5. The 2020s. That is very difficult, actually. Part of me just wants to say the Out of Time series. I've only listened to part 1 with the 4th Doctor and the 10th Doctor, but I want to hear the other two, which have the 5th and 6th Doctors in it. I would like to actually hear those. But I liked the first one a lot. I'm tempted just to say that because I did love it a lot. But if I wanted to stick with the TV show, just for consistency, it would probably be... I'd probably say Series 12. I can't... Again, if Series 12 came out in 2020 and is part of the 2020s, I would say Series 12. Yes, the finale is rubbish, but I find Series 12 pretty consistently good. I liked Spyfall. Orphan 55 is not very good. It does a couple things I like, but it's not very good. I did a whole video talking about that. But I love the Tesla episode. I think it is fantastic. A lot of that. The story is good, plus the casting of Edison and Tesla is very well done. The guy playing Tesla. When I think of Tesla now, I don't think of Tesla. I think of the guy playing Tesla. Kind of like George Patton. When you think of General Patton, you don't think of General Patton. You think of George C. Scott playing General Patton. I'm kind of like that with Tesla now. Fugitive of the Jadoon, I thought was a really good time. Even on rewatch, I really enjoy it. I think Jo Martin is very good as the Doctor. She's definitely channeling some Capaldi there, which I really like. There's definitely some 12 in there, which she's been on the record for saying. And I really like her. You really take her seriously. She has a lot of, she feels a lot like Capaldi and Hartnell in there, and I definitely mean that as a compliment. I'd love to see more of her. I'm glad she's getting her Big Finish spinoff. Praxis is kind of boring. It's just there. I've never rewatched it. I've only watched it the one time. There have been several times I've gone and I've been like, I'm about to rewatch it, and I'm like, maybe later. Then you have, Can You Hear Me, which is fantastic. Whittaker has her best moment in the role in that episode. In the finale, when she's all, I can stop you. I mean, it has things I nitpick, like the sonic hacking the fingers of gods is a little, doesn't work on wood, but it works on fingers of God. The fingers of gods, I should say. But I like how it explores what Ryan's going through and kind of the pitfalls of traveling with the Doctor, of losing the connection to people around you potentially. What it does with Yaz is really nice. The guy playing the male god, the one who's in the story more, is fantastic. He is phenomenal. I love when him and Whittaker have that scene together. His dialogue is just so good. And again, Whittaker really comes together and shines at the end of the episode and has a truly the Doctor moment, which she doesn't get enough of, in my opinion. And then The Haunting of Villa Diodati is really good. And Ascension of the Cybermen is a nice setup. It's hurt a little bit because the finale's terrible, but it's a nice setup. And I really like the character of the lone Cyberman. So I would probably say Series 12. Series 1 has a few episodes that put it in the runnings, because I very much love 73 Yards and Dot and Bubble. They're fantastic Doctor Who episodes. I don't just mean for modern Doctor Who. I mean, they're fantastic Doctor Who episodes, period. I stand by that. And I really like The Devil's Chord and Boom as well. Those are 4 worthy of being Doctor Who episodes, in my opinion. But I didn't really like Space Babies. Church on Ruby Road is okay. It's okay. Parts of it I like, parts of it I didn't. Didn't really care for Space Babies. Loved the chemistry between Molly and Shooty in Space Babies. But didn't really like the story overall. It got a little too silly. And then you have the back half of the season. The back 3 episodes just really weren't that good. I did not like Rogue at all. The Legend of Ruby Sunday, I knew was going to be an episode. How I was going to feel retroactively about it was going to depend on how good Empire of Death was, and Empire of Death was just underwhelming. One of the worst season finales the show has ever had, in classic or modern Doctor Who. Such a letdown. You take one of the best villains Doctor Who has ever had, one of the most powerful, one of the greatest, and basically bringing a villain back from one of the greatest Doctor Who stories of all time. Pyramids of Mars is held in such high regard for such a good reason. You bring back Gabriel Wolf, which is fantastic casting, by the way, and then you just ruin him. You just crap all over him, and you make it silly, and you make it disappointing, and it doesn't even make sense. It doesn't fit with the lore. It doesn't fit with the canon. It has more holes than a block of Swiss cheese. And that ultimately puts Series 12 above it. Because Series 12 also has a crappy finale. But I can honestly say that I find the Season 1 finale more disappointing than I do the Series 12 finale. And that's saying something, but I do. So those are the ones I would pick. I want to know what you think of my choices, and I want to know which ones you would pick. If you could save one season, or from each decade of Doctor Who, from those terrible, doggone aliens. Let me know what you think, and let's talk about it down in the comments below. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There is a link down there. I want to give a shout out to a couple of my top tier patrons, Sam Venning and Colin Coney. I appreciate their support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. It's very much appreciated, and my YouTube members as well. I also have a P.O. box if there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review. A link to my Amazon wish list is down there. A link to my Amazon UK wish list is also down there as well. Check those out. I update those regularly. Most importantly, thank you for watching.